Will they be able to find advantages through the draft? KC on the blue, G2 on the red, Pantheon and Annie immediately taken away.
And I really have to wonder what these teams have been cooking in this slight break as well. We have had, you know, some innovation over the last patch or two. Stuff like Morgana is starting to get played in parts of the world. And Vedius was really quite passionate about talking about that.
I mean, you're passionate about it because Baseron played it earlier
today, man. I am, and he was great.
He was really good. It was really good. It was buffed on 3 patches in a row. Varus taken away by G2. They're pinching that AD carry pool. 2 of the strongest picks in the meta right now as well, the Nymaera and the Varus. Talia, the final ban from KC. Where would G2 go? Do you look for something like an Azir ban just to make sure that you don't have the...
You've answered that question. You've just predicted it instead. I wonder what's happening with the jungle pool now. Stuff like Wukong has been very powerful here in Europe. We don't tend to pass up stuff like Maokai and stuff like that too easily either. Do hover over that Rise. Instead, Orianna, lane dominant mid laner, and something which Vladi is very confident on, something which the devs were talking about a lot was this mid lane matchup. Of course, we was getting to the point this split, we didn't know if Vladi would even be starting, which would be unthinkable. After Winter. I think giving him a strong laning mage pick which he's comfortable on is a good start for KC.
Yeah, 67% win rate on it all time, 6-3 on the champion. Haven't seen it from him this split, but
come on.
Obviously something he's very confident on. LeBlanc!
Oh, are you kidding me?
Oh my god! So Caps has the longest win streak in EU on this LeBlanc, 13 games in a row as far as I remember. What a moment to pick it out, because like the obvious thing for KC is, you know, you pick up the Nocturne, you look for that engage, but it's so hard to do that onto the LeBlanc. Alongside that, it looks like it's going to be Poppy for SkewMond, which he has not lost on this split, and that is, you know, for G2 kind of just saying they haven't lost this split at all, so it makes a lot of sense. Where will KC go in response to the LeBlanc, which I think we've only seen a few times this year?
I mean, in this summer, I think we've had, you know, 3-ish games or so. Very rare pick, but let's be honest. If you're going to come into this game with confidence, especially on the form that Caps is on against Vladi, who needs to find his feet again, we know he can be very good. I really think that Caps picking something like this, which can lane bully, snowball, and cause so many issues once you get ahead of the game, that is a hell of a pick to do it with. Rumble is let through. G2 typically ban away the Rumble. They've given it over this time, and now you have pretty long-range ultimates to use from KC. If they get any kind of lockdown to pin G2 into the big equalizer, that could be very, very problematic, as KC would look to finish off what could be a very strong team fight comp from the top side.
I mean, usually when you have the Orianna, you do look for that Nocturne, but instead they're going for the Skarner. Nocturne, not the best at diving onto a Poppy or onto a LeBlanc, so they switch things up, get themselves a tank in that top side.
Yeah, and the Skarner, I think it's known as the charcoal flame skewer over in China, this combo, the Rumble Skarner. So it's less about playing towards the Orianna, it's playing towards that Rumble instead, where you get that impale into the Flame Splitter and the Equalizer, and we get Broken Blade.
Oh my god.
So we're getting all the flair here from G2. We were wondering what they were cooking up, and well, we saw this once from Broken Blade. It was against Sion. Not exactly sure how it's going to work against the Rumble hit. Tons of changes came through for this pick. Sadly, we don't have Finn here today to break down for us. I'm sure he's screaming into the mic at home somewhere.
Yeah, he's having a whale of a time at home watching G2 and KC butt heads already in the draft. Like, you look at KC's draft, it's pretty standard. Like, this is what we expect from a 25.17. Maybe the Skarner would be a little bit out of place, but on the other side, G2 just going hell for leather early doors.
If G2 manage to get control of vision, they're going to pop out of that fog of war very, very quickly and very, very dangerously. Stuff like a Flash Poppy coming out of Flog, something that LeBlanc does very well too. G2 have very good skirmish potential. KC have more team fight potential as it stands right now. As we get later into the draft, you can see that G2 wanted to remove some of the safer AD carries, which are less prone to getting one-shot by a LeBlanc. Stuff like the Sivir is gone, the Xayah as well. Makes you wonder what will be left up for Caliste to allow him to play more safely. You wonder about something like a Kai'Sa sometimes because you're going to get your own shield, but even then it feels a bit risky.
Yeah, the problem with Kai'Sa is you're dashing around with the shield, but you're doing that in the middle of a Kled, LeBlanc, and Poppy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure I want to be dashing around. I'm not saying it's a good
option. I'm just wondering what's left.
I agree with you. It's a possibility, but it doesn't feel like a great option. As you say, most of the self-sufficient AD carries have already been taken out of the pool. If you really wanted to look towards things, you could say something like the Ziggs that can just clear a range and push things back, but you already have so much AP on your top side for KC that you need an AD carry. You need that physical damage coming out of the bot side. Kai'Sa's stolen away by G2 as well, which makes it even harder for Caliste and for KC to find an AD carry that's suitable here.
I do wonder what they're going to pick, which is self-sufficient. You might have to go towards the Corki, just have that Valkyrie to dash back. It does give you some early game pressure, which will help you a decent amount. G2, their lanes are actually quite scary on top side. They lock in the Nautilus, take away from Kai'Sa, one of their best pairings, and that'll leave them with more something like the Rell.
Yeah, the Rell will be Labrov's first time on it this split. G2 have only played 8 games, so it's not like the largest sample size to pick from, but neither of these supports actually bringing out Rell before this series, and it will only be Labrov bringing it out here, obviously, because we are in Fearless Draft. So, game 1 of this best of 5 qualifies you not only for Madrid, not only for the finals weekend, but also for the World Championships over in China in a month and a half time. What are we feeling? G2, as you say, very skirmish heavy. KC, much more front to back traditional.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the tagline for this one. It is skirmish versus team fight. If KC get bodied in lanes, they're going to lose vision, and they're probably going to lose a lot of kills to skirmishes beyond that. So very early into the game, we're going to see some important moments. Are we going to see Caps freeze the wave outside of his turret, jump beyond the wave, and threaten Vladi on the Orianna? That is something which happens in this matchup a lot, and Caps, we know how good he is on the LeBlanc at punishing lanes like this. He's so famous for it. We are in the heavyweight matches now, folks. Both teams going to be leaving the colors of each other's jerseys, black and blue, you got to feel.
Battered and bruised, black and blue. The Samurais taking on the Blue Wall, being in such loud voice throughout the year, especially after winning Winter Split. KC had a little bit of a downfall going into spring, now trying to bounce back in summer, have had their foibles, have had their flaws. G2, after 2 disappointing finals, want to show they can go undefeated through the LEC. Have done it in their group. The question is, will it continue through playoffs? Currently sitting at 8 games in a row. The record held by Fnatic, 22 in a row back in that 18-0 season in 2015.
That's the one, 2015 summer. Special one that was.
Here we go. On to Summoner's Rift for what is hopefully the first time of 5 today. Caps on his LeBlanc, his signature pick. 13 games without losing on it so far. Looking to make it 14. The guy has a 69.2% win rate on this pick. Over 52 games, his most played throughout his career. Good positioning there from Caliste to get some damage onto all 3 of Caps, Hans Summer and Labrov.
Yeah, it's good. Level 1 warding patterns, really. You'd like to put a ward down onto each other's raptors. Tends to give you a lot of information midway through the clear, so that ward tends to survive after their jungler's done their first quadrant. Can give you a lot of nice tangential information. And I think that information with the the quick look in towards the enemy raptors and, of course, the ward put onto red buff is quite important for KC, because when I look at Kled, I look at LeBlanc, I think there's a lot of options potentially for SkewMond to just dip into a lane, force flashes, and give a lot of problems towards KC's early lanes.
Well, we don't want to have all the fun by ourselves up here on the caster desk. You guys can be analysts as well if you vote in chat. KC, if you think KC are going to win the series. G2, if you think G2 are going to win the series. We'll bring up the results of the vote in just a couple of seconds' time. Often these things end up just being who has more fans. But I also want to see that, I'm going to be honest, between KC and G2.
It's pretty even here in the arena, actually.
It really is, as Broken Blade trades onto Canna with that bear trap on a rope. He's going to be winning out these early trades. Obviously, the power of Skarl allowing you a lot more threat in the lane early on, because even if you dismount, you can then remount and get that health bar back. It's a little bit like Narf going into the Mega Narf form. Effective HP is what I like to call it.
And Rumble really gets strong around the level. Good hook, dodge away from by Labrov there. But you really want that level 4 for the second point of your flame spit to get things really rolling for that Rumble. Mid lane, early chunk makes a lot of difference, actually. That's an important QW to land from Vladi. The worst thing that can happen in this mid lane is if you get a little bit of a HP lead from the LeBlanc and you get the wave on your side of the lane as well to jump beyond it and really threaten kills. That is how LeBlanc is operated for as long as LeBlanc's existed, really. So keep your eyes out for that one. As it stands, Caps wants to shove it in, get himself some more XP, maybe get himself a first back, and then look to set up that freeze.
Lands the chains there onto Vladi, gets the root. Obviously level 6, where the LeBlanc really comes alive with that Mimic, the ability to put 2 chains out, double distort for the forward, as Vladi tries to clip Caps there, but doesn't quite succeed in doing so. Targamas, I think, put a little bit of deep vision down towards where SkewMond is, may not have actually placed the ward. No, he was just putting his head in there to see if where SkewMond was, what he was doing. A couple of pings came out from KC, so they know the path of the G2 jungler.
See Caps, he's taken an early teleport back, only stopped off the refill and the boost, but just wanted that first wave clear. Really interested to see what he's going to do with that wave. We just described how the LeBlanc can really threaten that Orianna afterwards. Vladi's just teleported back in kind as well, going towards that tier. No surprises there. You can see right here, actually, the wave is actually going to be pushing in from Vladi, but I want to see if Caps will look for a little bit of a freeze and see if he can force Vladi to overextend. This is classic LeBlanc mid lane play.
You just want to be able to position yourself between your minions and the enemy, basically, so they can't step too far forward. This is like going to be a hard wave for him to hold, but you can see he's actually pinging that next wave, saying, okay, we can play off this. Wave will all get underneath the tower, so Vladi will be very happy about the fact he's got that push in. Yike path up towards this top side. He's going to look for a steal of these Razor Beaks if he can get it. SkewMond is coming in. Caps has the wave in a good enough position to jump across here and try and impact the play.
Looks like it's going to be a jungle straight 1v1 for now. Caps could jump forwards for a chain. Not going to be the case there. SkewMond secures the Raptor.
He does. Both of them using their smite there. So SkewMond just slightly better timing on it. It's always really hard when the camp gets down to just above 600 HP. It's like, oh, is the hammer shot going to do enough damage? Do I need to auto then smite? But in the end, SkewMond will be happy as Larry picking up his early camps and going back through his full rotation without backing here, actually. He's back up at the Krugs. So he's looking for a slightly more expensive first purchase than Yike has acquired with that Giant's Belt.
See that Vladi is actually done completely fine in this mid lane as well. Hiding on his minions, the chain can't cleanly land. This laning phase really important for KC because G2, they want to get those laning leads and then start getting these small advantages, start snowballing off of them.
Hansama missed the cannon, and Labrov ate the hook, took a bit of his health for it. Crashes down for the shield afterwards, but it only blocks an auto attack. Caliste and Targamas coming out on top, at least, in the early game in this bottom lane. Now, that is another matchup that we do want to look at a little bit. The Caliste versus...
Oh, just a little.
Versus Hansama. Sorry, I'm looking for my graphic and I cannot find it right now, so I'm not going to bring that up, but you can talk about it if you want.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think particularly when you look at both these AD carries, they've both had such a large following now for a long time. You know, Caliste, an absolute force of nature when he came here onto the LEC stage, but he's up against, you know, another French AD carry that has just won the hearts and minds over years. When I think of the iconic French players, I think of players like Soaz, Yellowstar, and Hansama's on that list. Caliste versus Hansama, they are icons in the spot lane role. And, you know, they've now played for titles against each other as well. And Hansama has quoted, you know, Caliste being the AD carry, which really, really forces him to think differently about the game. He punishes him. He pushes him to his limits.
Really threatens him throughout the game. Well, let's see what the audience think of both of the threats of these teams at the moment. KC versus G2, who will win? I feel it hasn't updated, or it's just very, very even. As SkewMond and Labrov look for a fight in the mid lane. They're jumping onto Vladi, who does flash away, but a good knockback by SkewMond. Will get first blood to G2. No real escape for Vladi after he burned that flash.
Oh, Vladi had done so well at managing his wave, but all it takes is one mistake, and Caps on LeBlanc pounces. Is walking into Yike, though.
He's going to get hooked up here. Doesn't have the Mimic, but does have his flash. There's a chain coming out as Labrov comes in just to make sure his mid laner gets away. Drake begun by SkewMond, level 6 already. Has the Tunneler for that little bit of extra AD. In fact, he was just clearing out vision. A couple of pings were coming down, but G2 decide against doing the objective. It would have been very greedy to go for.
So Caps gets himself kill participation. SkewMond gets himself first blood. You have to really keep an eye now on this flashless Orianna, because you can return to that and cause a lot of issues. Raptors are actually stolen this time away by Yike, who's trying to keep himself abreast of this jungle matchup. But this is the thing about the LeBlanc. If you allow it to snowball, get ahead of the lane, get some extra vision down, that is going to cause huge issues for a flashless, immobile mage.
Yeah, it's going to be really tricky for Vladi to navigate this. He's been struggling in the laning phase early on, and now the wave is not in a good spot for him at all. The first chains from Caps does miss. Will land the Sigil of Malice afterwards, and so because of that, Vladi can just shepherd his wave towards the tower. Caps will pick up that final minion. Vladi's doing a good job at least of keeping even on the CS, but he does need to be protected over these next 4 minutes or so.
Now, you can see it's just put in that ward on top side now. Targamas is coming in. You do need him here, though. You do need him here. The LeBlanc is very, very scary, as we've probably mentioned already many, many times at this point.
Also, Targamas can just walk his way up towards top after making sure this wave gets in, because we see the swap coming out from KC. Canna's gone down towards the bottom side. Grub's up in 10 seconds. Makes perfect sense. G2 are matching that swap, bringing Hansama up towards this top side. Caliste has been able to develop a small lead in the 1v1, about 100, 200 gold or so. A wave overall for him in advantage.
And I will say, you know, the gold lead's nothing.
Yep.
It's nothing there. KC are completely fine if things stay even. What we really want to see from KC is for them to just outlast some of the, you know, the potential scariness from LeBlanc and get towards big team fights later where they can group up, use the AoE ultimates which they have to great effect.
Caliste going to Valkyrie away from the Shattering Strike. This is just distraction tactics, making sure Yike can get 2 of those grubs. Looking for the second, holding onto the smite for that third. The Grub heals up, but they should get the smite. Hook lands onto Labrov. Targamas forcing G2 away towards the top side. That's 3 Grubs over to KC.
Easily taken, G2 not contesting, and they're not really that fit to contest in a 5v5. You know, going in down the throat of a shockwave and an equalizer, yeah, that doesn't sound fantastic. Of course, Canna had actually used it before that point, but the theory stands, right? So G2 choose not to contest that. Again, this is not really where they want to fight. KC, if they keep bringing them to objectives, though, that will be a problem in the future.
Yeah, the thing for KC is if you can get a couple of dragons under your belt, you're in a really good spot just for scaling. Chains hit from Caps, landing in the middle. Shockwave coming out as Vladi wants to keep SkewMond at bay. Shadowing strike into the crash down will interrupt the Valkyrie. Exhaust down on Hans Summer. Counter exhaust onto Caliste. Hans Summer has that killer instinct, but they don't want to go any further, as they will accept that Caliste is just below half HP.
Yeah, some firepower between the 2v2, but not enough to finish the kills. Just going to have to take those summoners. What's up next on the table? We do have Dragon still alive on the bottom side of the map. Remember, it was some vision fought over that early, but nothing committed to. One of the most valuable things you have as a jungler is time. Taking Dragon takes a lot of it, so you can understand why they haven't exactly rushed it so far. Especially with bot lanes on the other side of the map, they often be a lot of your DPS. Yike
coming in, Labrov with the Shadowing Strike, needs to dodge away from the Impale, uses the heal for the movement speed, but is slowed up by Yike. Labrov now on the wrong side of the rift. The hook lands as well from Targamas. Hans Summer trying to trade back in. Yike still holding on to that Impale as Hans Summer is able to survive. Keeper's verdict. No one guilty. SkewMond lands the slam into the wall. Yike down to 200 HP, and Hans Summer's given so much time just to mow him down. Yike dies. G2 find their second.
Karmine Corp can't close the play in time, so SkewMond comes to make his own. KC down 2 kills now in this early game, and they're going to get forced away from this top turret. They would have really liked to have some pressure in here to use those grubs they'd earned before. They can't do so. Instead, they'll lose some time and some farm on that top lane.
It's a big loss as well. Like, Hans Summer doesn't get the kill. It goes over to SkewMond, but that Sundered Sky even quicker for the Poppy, and SkewMond can have such an impact on this Poppy. Has had some really good performances on it in summer. Still KC within reaching distance, about 500, 600 gold the difference. But the problem against a team that likes to skirmish is when your jungler gets ahead, it makes it even easier for you to find those skirmishes. And Poppy is just so good at being a nuisance, at finding her way into fights. Even when she was created, her job was to put her ult on the enemy support and then chase you down forever.
Anyone else remember the Vizichachi Poppy way back in the Season 5 promotion? God, that was a long time ago, wasn't it? 10 years ago. What a history we've had here in Europe. Dragon now finally started. G2 got themselves the LeBlanc pushing in a mid lane. Vladi does have his flashback now. Maybe you can use that to brawl out against the LeBlanc and maybe walk his Dave down here. They do want to contest.
SkewMond already has that Dragon down to 2,000 HP. Should be an easy enough secure. No real contest there from KC, no real surprise either overall. When we look at the bottom of the scoreboard, you can see it's a sea of red, apart from Canna, who is ahead in that top lane. About 300 gold, his advantage. Hasn't really had to do much, apart from laning, which obviously is a skill in of itself. Puts the equalizer down. Yike is looking for something here. Broken Blade, it's about half that meter built back up. He can pop out his pistol and heal up some more of it from the minions. SkewMond just waiting here.
Doesn't have his smite.
Doesn't have his smite, as you say. Yike has his. Yike backing away a little bit. SkewMond smite about 2 seconds away. Yike gets it, and SkewMond smite about now is going to come up.
And let's be honest, probably don't want to walk in there when around the corner is the Orianna with the shockwave, which even though it has a catalyst and a tier behind it, it's still enough to make you think twice. Broken Blade, hang on a second, it's actually, you can probably remount that, but the HP is getting a little bit low to the point where you get a bit worried for him. Should be safe. Canna just trying to throw around his weight a little bit. It's important that he does so. I think KC, again, they need to get towards the 5v5s later. That is the goal for them, but you can't just seed lane pressure to do that. You need to be on top of these lanes and make sure they don't get advantages for free. BB, of course, he did play this Kled before. He played it into a Scion, which looked like a great matchup for him. We'll have to see how he makes it work.
Ooh, charging forward. Canna still has the flash here. No equalizer for him. SkewMond chasing in as well, but Canna just able to walk away. Yike could go for the Ishtal's impact. Sides against it, just shepherding here. Doesn't really want to show on vision because then the enemy knows exactly where you are and it opens them up for a little bit more. He's currently sitting on that control ward. Will SkewMond stay around long enough to protect Broken Blade?
Well, you can see that Caps was actually just dipping off that wave there. Actually, observers, do you mind if we just look towards mid lane and go to KC vision? Because I do have this feeling that Caps is doing stuff like this, because he's just going to keep pushing in and try and go either side of the river. If Caps get to walk either side of mid, now he's killed this ward, he's probably going to have about a 5-second window where the enemy team just doesn't really know where he's going just yet.
Yeah, and if we switch the vision back to the full vision, you can see exactly what G2 are doing to aid this. Double control wards coming out around that mid lane river. It makes it so much easier for Caps to step in and out of vision. You see it a lot with Twisted Fate, with Rise, with Talia, and obviously with the LeBlanc. Which is what G2 are doing right now. Broken Blade recalls, does have the teleport, but you can see Hun, Summer, and Labrov already on their way up here. BB will TP down towards bot. Vladi, no teleport on him, as Caps does have one. We've got a minute before the Rift Herald, so no real fight expected, but there's always a possibility that G2 could take one, knowing that they could have a numbers advantage.
Yeah, and we do have Herald in a minute. It's probably going to be the next big thing to fight over. KC have 3 grubs. If they gain that, big tower push. Don't really need to explain that one, do we? So KC would really like to play around the next objective setup. They're getting towards the point where they can start to force grouped fight. They catch Caliste.
I don't think this is going to really do too much. Just Labrov being a thorn in the side of Caliste, making him wonder, making him worry every time he steps into that fog of war. SkewMond will be able to steal away this blue. Yike is on the bottom side of the map right now, taking his own red. So SkewMond now 1-up in the stealing charts, I guess. Razorbeaks for a blue, you take that, but he did have his Scuttle Crab stolen, so maybe it's even Stevens.
Hey, we're going to have, like, you know, the title fight of the Herald one coming up, though. 20 seconds in. Does KC feel like they can contest? Do they want to contest? I think they're getting towards the point where they do think they can fight now. G2 will have to be aware of that.
You've got a Triforce complete on Caliste as Caps goes in with the chains. It makes it so much harder for you to trade in and to take these fights if your mid laner has already been chunked, and Caps doing exactly what he needs to at this moment. It's Rod of Ages on the Orianna. She will be tanky enough to survive through this burst, but she doesn't have a huge amount of damage at her own disposal, and if she's already chunked out a little bit, it becomes harder for her to step in. KC are posturing around this though, Nymaera.
They are. Herald has started. Remember that you do have the LeBlanc and the Kaiser, which can fly to one side of the fight. KC must approach at the right time.
Keeper's verdict. Impale was coming. He gets knocked back! He did it to oblivion! And the question is now, can SkewMond escape? He goes in, has to flash away. The shockwave lands onto 3. It's SkewMond, Broken Blade, and Labrov retreating out. KC will take the Herald. Canna's looking for lives. Labrov has to flash away. He's burning. Should have the movement speed to get out of this one. Canna pops the flame splitter again, but he doesn't have a scrap shield in time, and the remount from Labrov will be enough to escape.
Nothing moves to G2 Holiday! They did it! They took the damn flight to the other side of the rift! Didn't know they said that at all. Did they have to go through password control?
Hey, look, it's a Schenken region. It's fine. He's fine.
Not gonna lie, don't see that one too many times in pro. We get the Poppycopter charged up, and Yike says, all right, you're coming with me, mate. Flies up to the other side of the damn map. And then suddenly, you know, the disengage hasn't worked for G2. The Kled ult goes in the wrong direction. Hansama, he's losing a load of HP. The shockwave comes through, the equalizer comes through, and this is the grouped up fight which KC were waiting for. G2 should have known this is where KC were waiting to fight them, and they're punished for it.
High fives all around. Niski getting involved
totally
in the
planned.
He's in the base, okay? She's behind you.
Yep, she was definitely behind them, and KC from that will not only take the Rift Herald, they'll take a Drake. They'll slow the game down, which is exactly what they want. These coordinated team fights are really good for them, although I don't think anyone could have expected the Poppy Impale combination.
You know, end justifies the means. They ended up getting it somewhere. G2, they need a little bit more out of this early game. I'm wondering now what's going to happen now. You do have a slight good lead onto LeBlanc, but it doesn't feel like it's game-changing right now. Real credit to KC, letting this early game, you know, taking the blows where they can, and then waiting till that grouped up fight, playing towards the win conditions. That is actually, it doesn't seem like it's a huge thing all the time, but surviving these lanes and getting through to that fight, that's already an objective secured for them, really.
And getting leads in certain places as well. Canna and Caliste both healthily above the gold of their opposite members. There are some leads for G2 as well. You know, SkewMond and Caps are in the advantage, but Vladi's getting tankier by the day. Already has that Rod of Ages, 4 stacks on it. Caps doesn't have the burst that he would like. Perhaps later on he can be looking for a slightly squishier target, but then it's really only Rumble and Corki. Corki does have that Valkyrie. Labrov sneaking in towards this top side, seeing if he can help Caps get on the board. Only sitting at 0-0-1 on this LeBlanc. He'll dash away. LeBlanc still behind. SkewMond waiting here. They'll look for Targamas first. Vladi now realizes he has to flash away. Magnus still coming out. There's the TP as well. Death Charge used onto Caps. Keeper's verdict gets the knockback, and Targamas will sacrifice himself for his mid laner. Good job by the support to mean that he could survive for a little bit longer, but the charge comes in from G2. A good shockwave from Vladi will catch onto 2. The dive continues as now Caps is the one tanking the tower. Impale goes wide. Broken Blade will dismount onto Skull. The aggro switches over to SkewMond. The equalizer comes down. Broken Blade's going to flash away as he looks to dash out of Yike's clutches. But the pincers collapse. And Broken Blade goes down in the end, a 2-for-1 exchange.
A 2-for-1, G2 getting the slight better end of that, but they overdive a little too far. This Kled has struggled to get huge value in this game so far. Does manage to use that ult to go beyond the tower, but it's not quite onto the target, which he wanted. To start things off, Vladi thought he was safe, but didn't, of course, spot the hidden Rell in the bush. You were just saying it's Labrov's first game of it in this split, but, every support's plied their tray on this one. Got the summoner out of him, and despite Targa and Yike being there, Poppy ult this time actually gets the disengage value they want, allows them to get the isolated kill. This is the point where they go a little too far, though. You have to take the small wins sometimes, and I wonder whether this was just a little too ambitious.
I think it definitely was. If Broken Blade had charged a little bit more towards the tower so Vladi couldn't dodge it, we definitely would have got that kill and probably could have got away from Yike. Here, Canna able to come in and clean this one up. So KC able to get one back in response. It's a 200 gold lead for Karmine Corp, but very even between these two teams. Basically, 3 grubs and 2 petals separate them right now. Now it's down to 1. Probably the most even early game we've seen.
And we've even got the gardeners involved now. Correct down to the petals. Speaking of that, we do have Atakan spawning in 20 seconds. Atakan scares me, Aaron. Yeah? It scares me. That is where games go to die. I will say, Karmine Corp have really impressed me with a lot of their Atakan setups at points, where they've been pulling it away from the dangerous kind of multi-flank angles. This game could be determined by that kind of fight. G2 really need to avoid the setup 5v5s, I think, if it's all possible. If they can get themselves a good pick outside of that, kind of like what we saw before, the isolator member with the Poppy ult, get them down, that should make things a lot easier for them. But, Atakan has spawned, and KC, well, I think they see a fine angle towards it.
Caps' bottom doesn't have TP, so KC are just immediately going to pull the trigger on this. Now started up, it's down to 10,000. Targamas making sure that SkewMond doesn't have an easy avenue to approach this. SkewMond's going to start to walk in, but that is already gone. Depth charge onto the enemy jungler. Atakan secured for KC. They sneak it away. Great setup overall.
Yeah, KC just group up, take it down, and G2 don't have a great answer. They do take the block turret, and they push in a little bit towards mid as well, so they get some tower damage for the objective trade. Any other kind of fights coming through? We're all sticking around on top side.
Labrov looking for Vladi. Caliste goes in with the Valkyrie. Exhaust goes down, but Caliste just one-shots him. Caps diving in. The chains will find their man. Slam into the wall from SkewMond as well. So we see Targamas fall alongside his bot side brethren. Hunsummer having to flash away from Canna, who's overheated. But it doesn't matter. His autos will do all the work. Broken Blade finds a cowardly Skull to remount, but Skull immediately runs away as KC finds 3 in the play.
G2 try and punish KC after the Atakan, but KC are ready. G2 don't get the clean play, and now suddenly Herald into mid lane. There's going to be a double charge potentially coming through from that. KC get a huge advantage across that Atakan, and then the play afterwards too. We're just saying, the petals were even. It's gone from 24 from 7 after that point. Even a charge into the bot lane. So a driving license required.
Yes, we'll give him a pass for that one. We want to review it after his provisional license in about 6 months' time or so. But now a 2,000 gold lead for KC. 1.5 of that sitting on Canna, who has the Zhonyas. And you'll see from this fight, G2 are very focused on Vladi and Caliste, and they kind of forget about Canna.
They kind of do, and that's the problem with the Rumble. It is just an extra carry you have to worry about. They do end up getting Caliste very easily at the start here, and they can dive forwards very quickly. You see LeBlanc and the Kaiser going straight into the backline. They've fired their shotgun down. You do not have those cooldowns, and you have no mobility to get away from, well, this guy here. There's so much damage down. We were worried about this top, interested about the top lane matchup, to go back to life.
And Labrov has to cleanse away. Knocked up, does still have the heal. Will dash across this wall with the crash down. Burns both his summoners to escape that precarious situation. Caps is trying to get some gold on the side lane, as he'll be able to take this top lane tier 1.
G2 will get themselves a decent amount of tower gold on towards Caps LeBlanc. So I think this was pretty easy to see on the scoreboard, folks. We have 2 main characters here. We have a Rumble, who is very, very fed. We also have a Caps LeBlanc with a death cap as well. A fancy hat making him that more scary. We have our heroes and our villains, I suppose, on the other side of it.
I mean, his name is Caps. Obviously, he's
got to get something on that head of his.
He's got to have at least one headpiece. The Drake has been started here by G2. KC TPing in as they look for the fight. Broken Blade around the wings here. Yike going in for it. Equalizer down. LeBlanc's going to jump away from it. The slow onto Caps, though, not enough. He's going to just sword away. Hansama hooked up, though, as KC find another. Caps, chains don't connect. The exhaust down. Yike's going to chase him. SkewMond jumps onto Caliste, but is all on his lonesome because BB has gone home. SkewMond, with the steadfast presence movement speed, should be able to get out of here. Vladi and Canna trying to cut him off at the pass.
Oh, they're teleporting.
TP comes out from Vladi. I mean, you might just give a free ticket away for SkewMond here. He can dash onto you and then flash over the shockwave if it comes out. Vladi does get the slow with the dissonance, and that will be enough to spell the end of the Poppy.
G2 get the objective, but they do not get the fights. They don't find their way onto any of the carries. It's a quick retreat from them. As KC, whenever there are about 4 people or more on the screen, 4 or 5, they're the ones winning these fights. It hasn't been about those split picks and the skirmishes you expect from a LeBlanc, from a Kled. G2, they've really struggled to make this game about their team comp's strengths. I'm worried that they're taking too many grouped up fights. They need to find a way to isolate people.
League at the moment is very grouped up generally, though. You want to go for those dragons, you want to go for the grubs, for the Herald, for the Artican. We'll see this again. G2 just want to get out as soon as they get that objective.
As soon as the equalizer goes down, you realize you're playing at such a HP deficit, you're probably retreating anyway, and they just try and get out with as few losses as they can. You see that, of course, Hansama didn't have the flash, didn't really have a place to ult. Caps did have to flash away. At least he lives, though.
Yeah, manages to survive 13 games in a row undefeated on this LeBlanc, and like, it is rare to see him bring it out. But when he does, he is pretty damn impressive. 28-9 on it, LEC all-time, a 76% win rate.
Crazy.
Considering his average win rate is above most players, is like 65% all-time career, I think. To have a champion that is then 10% higher than
ridiculous,
that is, yeah, pretty ludicrous. But here he is in the bottom of the hole, trying to dig his way out on the LeBlanc. Has 6 stacks on his Dark Seal, Vladi 10 stacks on his Rod of Ages, and the Seraph's Embrace all upgraded. Caps dashing forward, puts a Sigil of Malice into Targamas, and then just jumps back.
KC have done a really good job of making this about the objectives. Now, you were saying, look, the meta has been grouped of fights. We have Artican, we have Dragons, Grubs, Heralds, you name it. We have so many objectives to fight over. It's one of the reasons we don't see that much LeBlanc. Caps will have to prove his mastery on the champion to somehow make this about him on the champion and his skill on it, rather than what we know about global League of Legends right now.
Because KC are making it about them. Canna is making every fight about Canna, about this Rumble. 1,000 gold ahead, 2 items complete. Caliste is doing the same on this Corki. Even if he's dying early on, Labrov has a big flank here, but KC are wise to it. Magnastorm coming in. There's the Killer Instinct as well as they dive onto Caliste, who flashes away. But now Summer just dives to the tower. SkewMond impaled and cooked underneath the turret. Broken Blade now charging away. Cowards, you cry! As Skarner runs away himself. Equalizer down. Ishtal's impact from Yike. It's gonna be 3 for KC. As G2 took a fight they just weren't ready for.
G2 run head first into the blue wall and into the blue mid lane outer turret. That's going to open up the Baron with so many dead. KC have made the game about them, their team comp, and their 5v5s, and they have been rewarded for it. It's going to be a full team of Baron burst for them, and an easy slide in towards the next objectives, and a dominant game.
5.5k ahead. KC, 26 minutes into this game, have wrested any semblance of control out of the hands of G2. And G2 are looking for it. Like, this is an intriguing play because they know Caliste has no Valkyrie, let's go. But then Hansama just attacks the tower shot, dies immediately.
There are many places you can go as a Kai'Sa with your ultimate. I would suggest under the enemy turret, when there's a Nautilus to CC you, there is probably not the best position. You have to follow the play somewhere. I do understand that, but I think he could have gone maybe just over, just to the back of the Wolf Pit, maybe play around there. Getting CC'd under there just meant his team fight was completely over. Great response from KC on the defense.
And now G2 staring down their first defeat of Summer. I think the questions as to which group was harder have truly been answered between the two of them, as KC are really leaving G2 at a massive deficit. Broken Blade hasn't really had much impact on this Kled. We saw the eclectic draft from G2 and wondered, you know, had they been cooking? Is it burnt? Is the meat skewer just too raw for them?
No, this is like the overcooked level when you have to throw things between the 2 bits of the balloon. This is maybe a little bit of an awkward one, but yet they needed a larger laning lead. They needed earlier game lead, really. They've not really been able to get that, and you can see KC have just stood strong, taken the beating where they could in the early game. Came out pretty okay from it, actually. Groups up. G2, their power of their champions really diminished after that point. Dragon spawning now. G2, I suppose, could look towards some kind of freak steal, look towards Soul later. KC aren't going to easily give that to them.
Caps looking for a flank here, but the rest of G2 just aren't here to respond. Canna level 17 as the chains go wide. Vladi 17 as well, obviously has picked up one of those levels from his Rod of Ages, but you can see Caps a little bit desperate, looking through the enemy jungle, clearing out vision, trying to find a flank position, but KC are doing their due diligence really well, making sure that even if they're stepping past their own jungle, they have every entryway into it warded in some way, so Caps just can't sneak behind them. Labrov here, slammed into the wall, the equalizer goes down, Caps immediately vacates the vicinity. Labrov should be okay, keep his verdict channeled, won't have to be cast. Anyone can cancel it in the last moment. Caps still looking for that flank again, but Targamas here, putting the control wards down is another tier 2. And SkewMond with the steadfast presence was looking to block that dredge line connecting. Caps will clear out a ward, but there's another one in its place already. And now, KC are beginning to collapse. Caps going to lead them on a merry chase, just as LeBlanc can do. I expect KC will eventually call off going for this fight.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to chase him down, but you can see G2, they're all about the smoke and mirrors. And yeah, it's either that or a teleport out. Choosing the teleport.
Vladi put the ball in the wrong spot. Can't really blame him for that. TP out from Caps. He will get to safety, but now Vladi even ahead of Caps in terms of gold. Since that death cap, we haven't seen as much impact as Caps would like. KC across the board having an absolute stormer, playing exactly to their win conditions, and also evading the early game woes that we saw from them so much earlier in summer.
It's very true. You know, KC, their early game was one of their foibles a little bit earlier into the year. Hasn't shown that hit. And they've had a crazy power play from the Baron now too to get this into a point where G2 are completely reduced to smoke and mirrors. No one's been able to do that this split. G2 undefeated so far throughout that group stage, now coming through into playoffs. We're expecting, okay, well, G2, they're the team which everyone is calling favorites right now. Everything's looking very tense. G2, surely they're just going to blow things away. Absolutely not in game one. KC have very handedly dealt with them so far. Of course, it is just game one in the series, but G2, a reality check, I think.
Yeah, it really is. Talk about this often in tournaments. It's like, do you want to be checked early on? Do you want to find someone in your group that really challenges you? Is it better to wait for playoffs so you can ride the momentum high? As Targamas is chasing onto Broken Blade here. Charge away, but Targamas flashes in front of it. Depth charge coming out as well. The Keeper's Verdict being channeled by SkewMond. He'll yeet the Scorpion to Timbuktu, and Targamas dies for it. Caliste almost takes down SkewMond, but can't quite get the final shot. Broken Blade, though, will not manage to escape. In the end, Targamas takes it. And KC get another on the board in a 1-for-1 exchange.
1-for-1, but KC have the wave and they can keep pushing forwards. Yeah, he was yeeted out, but he's still back, flashing forwards.
Yeah, Impale going wide there as Hans Summer flashes away himself. KC know that Caps is not here. The TP being invested by Vladi to make sure that he stops that tier 2 from falling. They'll take an inhibitor, Caps dashing away in that top side. Canna trying to turn this around with the equalizer, just forces G2 away from making any subsequent plays. Drake up in a minute 50. Baron returns to the Rift in a minute's time.
God, just look at all of these leads coming through from KC now. After such a dominant power play, we've got 3,000 on bot lane, which has actually somehow eclipsed the top lane lead as well. And even jungle has got a significant one there, over 1,000. You know, the Infinity Edge is built up for the Corki. Normally you'd say the Kai'Sa massively outvalues the Corki in the current meta at some stage in the game. This has not been the case here. You see Caliste even went for a jump forwards and technically a 1v2 at points in this lane. Targamas does flash to stop the ultimate. Does end up leading to getting him killed, but whatever, it's standard 1-for-1. You are a support, you are allowed to use your HP liberally.
Yeah, and forces SkewMond low as well, which is great for the oncoming push towards this tower. I'll take a support for a top laner every day of the week. Like, if you're Targamas, you are very happy with the way that trade has gone. Hans Summer just finishing up his 3rd item, where there were 4 on Caliste. It's a terminus for Hans Summer, but maybe end of the road for G2, at least in this game. Labrov caught out a little bit by Targamas. Caps jumping onto Caliste, will land the chains, but doesn't get much more. And you can see an order with that Trinity Force, enough to take Caps down to about 500 HP. The dive in with the killing instinct onto Vladi, but he's so tanky. Broken Blade now left on his lonesome, has to flash the wall, but Canna will not let him escape. Burns him up in the jungle. And now SkewMond needs to look for a miracle steal on this Baron. Broken Blade 50 seconds away from respawning. Vladi's going to try and keep SkewMond at bay. Targamas going to join that foray.
They still have Shockwave. After everything's been used, they can still just ward them off.
Yeah, it's just gone. There's the hook going out. SkewMond dives onto Vladi. Equalizer as well. Vladi falling so low. He will die in the end. To SkewMond's damage, he'll flash away. The Baron secured for KC, but they'll only have it on 4.
I mean, they still managed to get the thing down cleanly. G2, they try and go for one of these, again, desperate plays. That is what they've been reduced to. Trying to look for these individual picks around the place, but I mean, credit to Vladi here. I mean, a lot of people really hate on the Rod of Ages build, and I think most of the time, I'd agree with you.
It's really good this game.
It's really good this game. One, because you have a Rumble, your damage matters less, and 2, you get to survive in plays like that too. G2 had to invest so much. Dragon's now alive. KC will come to play around this too. G2, half health from the jungle. It's not a great start.
Broken Blade still has a quarter of the timer on his cooldown for his charge and no TP. He's going to have to leave that super minion in the base, hitting those Nexus towers. Yike going forward. Caps look for Canna. Flashes away, but the stopwatch will stop the chains. Magnet Storm onto 3 here. Impale just short of Han Summer, but Labrov's the first one to go pop, and Broken Blade still not in the fight. The Dragon, the next target for G2, is SkewMond, and Han Summer try to burst it down before KC can react. SkewMond with the charge back onto Yike. The Baron secured by Yike. He wins the fight, and now KC continue to advance. Broken Blade jousting forward. Han Summer low. SkewMond the same. Caps dashes in, but just lands the chains onto Targamas. Broken Blade, Skarner has left him, and so will the last beat of his heart. Broken Blade down. KC pushing forward. Equalizer just clips Han Summer. The redemption coming out as well, just to heal him up, at a TP behind. Can SkewMond defend Han Summer here? Targamas, depth charge. SkewMond needs to stand in the way, but he doesn't get there in time. The killer instinct, an instinct only for the grave. Caps tries to get another chains, but it's only onto Yike. It doesn't even get through his shield. KC just marching through the base at this point. SkewMond slammed into his own Nexus, and G2 are left rattled.
KC, a real reality check for G2. A roar of life from the blue wall. What a dominant game one.
Caps trying to do everything he can to find anything out of this game, but he'll lose his life at the end of it. The blue wall stands tall as KC go 1-0 up.
Now, I'm not sure G2 expected a game like that. I'm not sure a lot of the fans did too. KC, a huge statement in game one. Perhaps giving us some thoughts about the strength of these groups, and definitely the strength of KC. Very cohesive game plan. Wait until the grouped up fights and make the most of it.
Also just an evolution of KC from what we saw of them in the summer regular season. We'll be right back after this break. Don't you dare go anywhere.